In a free democracy, every person has an equal opportunity to pursue their own goals. But millions of people chasing their own versions of happiness in the same shared space guarantees that eventually those goals will collide. Historically, these collisions were settled using a simple mechanism: raw physical power. The stronger party forced the weaker to yield. A democracy cannot survive on the rules of the playground. To keep individual freedom intact without descending into chaos, society needs an impartial referee, a structured system to resolve conflicts without resorting to violence. The foundation of this system is the rule of law. This is the agreement that no person, corporation, or government entity is exempt from the rules of society. Anyone who breaks the law is held accountable. However, written laws have a limitation. They are inanimate. A statute on a piece of paper cannot arrest a suspect, read its own text, or enforce itself. The American judicial system acts as the engine designed to breathe life into those static pages, applying the text to real-world disputes and filling the vacuum of human conflict. The modern judicial engine evolved through thousands of years of legal trial and error, drawing blueprints from earlier civilizations. In ancient Babylonia, King Hammurabi compiled a code of rules establishing the first structured categories of offenses, separating criminal law from property and family disputes. The ancient Israelites introduced a standardized ethical framework to the mix. Their legal code set a lasting standard focused on social justice and communal responsibility. As the Roman Empire expanded, its legal system became tangled. Emperor Justinian ordered scholars to codify and simplify these scattered rules into a single system. Each of these milestones acted as a critical software update. The creators of the American legal system studied these sources, combining their features to write the foundational operating system of our modern judiciary. Even with a strong foundation, the day-to-day reality of law is messy. Elected representatives write the rules, but the language they use is frequently blurry, failing to account for every possible scenario. Consider a local ordinance: no vehicles in the park. Does that ban bicycles, a motorized wheelchair, or an ambulance? To solve this, judges interpret the text case by case, building an ongoing precedent for future courts to follow. The court acts as a translator, turning blurry legislative intent into a functional, everyday reality. The judiciary also has a mandate to protect citizens from the government itself, a function achieved through judicial review. If a local police department violates an individual's rights during an arrest, or if Congress passes a statute that conflicts with the Constitution, judicial review gives the courts the authority to invalidate those actions. But there are structural breaks on this authority. Courts cannot initiate their own cases to strike down laws. They cannot give advisory opinions to the president, and their budgets are controlled by the legislature. The ultimate vulnerability of the courts is physical. The judicial branch has no police force and commands no military. To enforce its rulings, it must rely on the cooperation of the executive branch. This creates a high-stakes systemic tension. The courts hold interpretive authority but zero physical power, forcing all three branches into a delicate balance. Because the courts cannot force compliance through military might, the judicial mechanism rests on a single pillar: public trust. The system functions only if citizens respect the decisions enough to obey them voluntarily. To maintain that respect, the public must believe that the courts act impartially. This requires judicial independence, protecting judges from outside coercion or political pressure. The federal government approaches this by granting its judges lifetime appointments. Once confirmed by the Senate, a federal judge never faces electoral pressure, and they cannot be fired for making an unpopular ruling. Advocates argue that a judge who never faces re-election is shielded from political corruption, leaving them free to interpret the law fairly, even when the legally correct decision is unpopular. At the state level, the logic is different. Most states prioritize accountability over insulation. They require judges to periodically face voters in retention elections to ensure they remain responsible to the citizens they serve. Critics of the state model point out that elections require money. Raising campaign funds creates the risk that a judge might become biased, ruling in favor of donors' interests rather than the letter of the law. The American democratic system has never settled this debate. The question of whether elections or appointments best protect judicial purity continues today. Despite these structural debates and systemic imperfections, the courts continue to operate. They are the essential, quiet engine ensuring that society is governed by laws and not by raw power.